Hey guys, it's Haley and welcome to another bookish video. Today we are doing one of the, I feel like, most requested videos I've ever gotten, and that is just compiling all my favorite thrillers into one video. These are my top 25 favorite thrillers of all time. And I have to say, this is not a classic list. I feel like a lot of people's top thriller lists look kind of similar, and we definitely have like the classics in here, but I feel like my taste is weird. So if you take one of these recommendations and you don't like it, just know you were warned. I have slightly weird taste in thrillers. Sometimes I rate things 5 stars that everyone gives 2 stars, you know, it's fine. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into my top 25 favorite thrillers of all time. We're just gonna go ahead and start out with one that you guys already knew was gonna be on here, Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier. This book follows our main character, Gio. She is falling under fire for a murder that she was slightly involved in when she was in high school, and now it's years and years later. She has this successful career, but everything has to be put on hold when she's serving jail time for this crime that she aided and abetted in high school. And we're flipping back and forth. It's a dual timeline between what's happening in present day with Gio and what had happened back then when she was involved in this murder as a high schooler in the 90s. The 90s vibes are strong. This one's very, very dark and has a lot of trigger warnings. Super shocking twist. Like, I was getting whiplash with the twists in this book. It is phenomenal. Definitely my top favorite book of 2021 so far, so please read this book. Next up, I have The One by John Mars. And this one is a sci-fi thriller that takes place I think they call it like a minute into the future or something like that, where it's not too far and futuristic, but things happen in this world that would not happen in our present day. So it's following a bunch of couples and single people getting their matches from this matchmaking service that uses DNA to tell you who your soulmate is. You're thinking, that doesn't sound like a thriller, that sounds like a sci-fi or a romance. The catch is, one of the perspectives we're following is a serial killer. So we get to see his match. Who would be the soulmate of a serial killer? Very cool to see. A lot of things happen. The drama. If you like dramatic thrillers, this one's for you. It's also a British thriller. You'll see that's a big theme. I love British thrillers. Moving on, I don't want to talk about all of these for too long. I just want to kind of do rapid fire recommendations, give you enough information to know if you'd want to pick it up. But obviously, I gave all of these 5 stars, so I don't want to go too in depth. Next up, we have The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter. Karen Slaughter is my queen. I love everything that she's ever written, but this one is definitely in my top 25. It follows a lawyer as she is grappling with the traumatic things she experienced as a child that are coming back to haunt her in the present day. I feel that that's all you should know about this book. I don't like to know a lot about Karen Slaughter books going in. They have so much more of an impact when you know little to nothing before you start reading them. So obviously, I would recommend that one. Next up, we have a new favorite, and that is Survivor by J.F. Gonzalez. And I have raved and raved about this book. But basically, it's about a married couple that goes on a romantic getaway. On the way there, the husband is pulled over and taken to jail under nefarious circumstances, and the wife goes to check into a hotel, spend the night, wake up and try to get her husband out of jail in the morning, and she ends up being kidnapped. If you want full thoughts and hilariously chaotic clips of me reading this and reacting to it in real time, I will link my Halloween vlog where I read this. I know, it was just crazy and chaotic. It is some of the most embarrassing footage I've ever filmed of myself, but here it is on the internet and y'all are loving it. So, Survivor, wonderful. Next up, we have more of a quiet thriller. A lot of those have a lot of trigger warnings. They're very dark. This one is more understated, and of course, it's by my queen, Lisa Jewell, The House We Grew Up In. This follows a family that has a lot of twisted, fucked up dynamics within it, and if you like those stories where you feel like you're just an onlooker kind of peeping in the windows of this crazy family, you will love this story because it is exactly that. The matriarch of the family suffers from hoarding disorder, and you just see how it affects her family and how every single family member has their own stuff that affects every other person. If you're a therapist and you like systems theory, this is the one for you. I know the bulk of my audience will not know what I'm talking about, but that is what this book makes me think of. It is not super twisty. You kind of know what's going on the whole time. It is just disturbing to watch it play out, and it really feels realistic. You feel like you know these characters. I feel like Lisa Jewell does that so well. I feel so attached to all of her characters when I read her books, and this one does it particularly well. Next up, we have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This one is super, super hyped, but I believe it definitely lives up to it. I read it all in one night, literally stayed up till 4 a.m. because I had to know what was happening in this book, and I don't regret it for a second. It was one of the most fast-paced and thrilling rides I've ever taken with a thriller, and it follows a man who is a psychologist, and he hears about this patient who is silent. Ever since she murdered her husband, she hasn't uttered one single word, so he goes and sees if he can treat her, if he's the one man on earth that can do this. And things go off the rails from there. Jumping back into Lisa Jewell, we have her release from last year, Invisible Girl, which was in my top 3 books of all the books that I read in 2020. It is still one of my favorites. I really want to reread this one actually because I just love the story. Again, Lisa Jewell's thrillers are so much more than just twists and fun. They make you care about these characters. These characters feel so real. I don't want you to know anything about this book other than it's about the disappearance of a teenager and the people that are kind of adjacent around her life. We get all of those multiple perspectives, and we're following the different things that end up coming together and revealing what actually happened. Should we just get this one out of the way too? Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. This is my whole brand at this point. You guys know this is my favorite book of all time. When people ask me what's my favorite book, this is the answer that I give. Cameron knows. Cameron does not know anything about my reading, but he knows that this is my favorite book. Anytime I'm reading something and I'm loving it, he goes, is it Pretty Girls? Like, obviously I'm not gonna read Pretty Girls every month, King, but point is, this has become my brand at this point. I don't think you should know absolutely anything going into this book. That's the way that I went in, and I absolutely loved it. This book changed the way that I read and the way that I think about thrillers. It's flawless in my eyes, but very, very, very important that you look up trigger warnings if you are sensitive to anything at all going into this book, because it is very graphic and disturbing. Let's do a classic, shall we? Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. This is the thriller that got me into loving domestic thrillers and the like suburban mommy drama. This is the original, and it just does it so well. It's about this group of rich moms going about their days and their drama, their daily drama. If you love dramatic thrillers, again, you will love this one. But at a charity event, a murder takes place. So you're trying to read and figure out who the killer is, what was the motivation for it, what was going on, and along the way, you're finding out about all this drama that is just so entertaining. This book is over 500 pages, so it's a chunk for me. I don't read that long of books usually, and I read it in a day. It was just so fun and like dramatic and salacious. I needed to know everything that was going on. Another one of my all-time favorite domestic thrillers is The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. This one is a bitch I'm gonna snatch your life story, and it is the best one of those I have ever read. The twist at the halfway point, I threw the book across the room. I could not get over it. It's about this rich woman who has this perfect life, perfect family, perfect husband, perfect house, and this little scoundrel of a girl who sneaks in and tries to take it all from her. Phenomenal, amazing, great poolside read as well. An underrated favorite of mine is The Party by Robin Harding. I feel like Robin Harding is a very underhyped thriller author. This one, though, hit all the right spots for me. I would describe this one as if you like Little Fires Everywhere, but it was too literary for you and you want something a little bit more fast-paced and dramatic, read The Party. It is that same kind of neighborhood feel where you know that there's something going on in this suburban town and everyone's kind of peeking through their windows, watching each other. One night there's a sweet 16 sleepover birthday party and an absolute tragedy happens that changes the course of what's going on in this little suburb. It's kind of one family versus the other, and there's a legal battle, and everyone in the suburb has to like pick their sides. Those are the aspects that remind me of Little Fires Everywhere, which is another one of my favorites, but I think that is more like literary mystery, and this is more of a thriller. Another one of my top favorites that came out of my 2021 reading is The Girl in 6E by Ar Torre. Y'all know I have become absolutely obsessed with Ar Torre this year. She's amazing in my eyes. I will just eat up anything she writes. And the 6E series is my favorite thing that she's written. We're following Deanna Madden. She is a self-proclaimed sociopathic murderer, and she thinks if she leaves her apartment, if she allows herself to go into the world, she won't be able to control herself and she will just start killing people. So she locks herself in her apartment, gets a job online being a cam girl, so she never has to leave and she can still survive and make money, and that's how she lives her life. But she sees something online that causes her to question if she could possibly leave her apartment and make a difference. I know this one is controversial. I know a lot of people don't like it. I love it. This book is everything to me. It's so freaking fun. Next up, we'll go with another classic coming off my controversial pick. And well, actually, this one's kind of controversial too, but it is the entire You series by Caroline Kepnes. This is the most recent release. This is the third book in the series, and obviously it's an iconic Netflix show as well, starring Joe Goldberg. It's written from second person perspective, so it is a totally genius experience for the reader. And I feel like this book and this series changed the way the thrillers are written. I've seen so many thrillers be released since You that have that second person perspective, but we're basically following Joe Goldberg, who is obsessed with different girls in each book, and he will do anything to keep them all to himself. Very creepy, very darkly funny, highly recommend. Let's jump back into the controversy, shall we? Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I know a ton of people hate this book. To all of you that hate this book, I'm just gonna do that. No, just kidding. Am I kidding? No. I think the people who don't like this book are just writing it off and writing off Riley Sager in general. I've seen a lot of people talk shit about Riley Sager, and it makes me want to go feral, okay? I will defend Riley Sager to the ends of the earth. He is fun. His writing is fun. Is it a literary masterpiece? No, he's not intending to be the next fucking F. Scott Fitzgerald, but we're having a fun time over here. Does he write annoying female main characters? Yes, it's fun. It is fun to watch a dumb bitch in a horror movie walk through the wrong door. That's the whole point. When she's going into the deadly basement and you're screaming, oh my God, don't go into the basement. That's like the whole fucking point. Oh my God. I could do a whole rant about why people are shitting on Riley Sager for no fucking reason. We stand Riley Sager on this channel. Anyway, Survive the Night. This was an easy 5-star for me. This was another one that I binged in one night. I stayed up till 2 in the morning to finish this book. I needed to know what happened. All the twists caught me by surprise, and I think this has an element that a lot of people are not enjoying that I enjoyed for a very specific reason. I'm not going to go into depth about it right now in this video because I already got a little bit ranty there, but I will link my wrap up where I talk about this book and I explain in depth the reasons why I love it so much. Let's go back into classic territory so nobody gets mad at me. This is the book that got me into reading thrillers in the first place. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Y'all knew this was coming. Nobody has ever done a missing woman thriller that is better than this. I'm sorry to Mary Kubica. I'm sorry to my queen, Lisa Jewell, but this is the OG. This is the one that got so many people into reading thrillers, I feel like. And the movie, chef's kiss, phenomenal. Go in knowing nothing. Read this book if you haven't been spoiled for it already. You're blessed. Please give it a read. Next up, we have I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. This is another one of my top reads from 2020, and I'm still obsessed with it. I think this is another one that you should go in knowing next to nothing, but knowing that it is very, very weird and it will take you on a trippy ride. I have a whole 20-minute video giving a very in-depth review of this book and its movie companion on Netflix. So I will link that if you want more in-depth thoughts, but just know that I do not fall in the 1-star camp of this book. I fall firmly in the 5-star camp. Next up, we have another classic, and that is No Exit by Taylor Adams. This one doesn't miss. If you're looking for a book that reads like an action movie, a horror movie, it's fast-paced, it'll keep you hooked the whole time, read No Exit by Taylor Adams. It's about a college girl driving home for the holidays, but she gets stuck in a blizzard, can't drive on the roads, and she has to pull into this rest stop. And while she's there, she notices that someone at this rest stop has a child locked in a cage in the back of their car. So she knows that she's stuck there with a kidnapper, and she has to figure out who it is, what's going on, and get out of there alive. This one I didn't feel was too intense, but I have recommended it to people who reported back that it was a little too much for them, a little too gory for them. So I guess be on the lookout for that. But if you're a reader like me, I think you'll be fine. Next up, we have The Lying Game by Ruth Ware. This one is just so fun. It's another one that kept me up all night because I needed to know what happened. It has slight dark academia vibes, which I feel like people don't really know about. It follows 3 girls who were BFFs when they went to boarding school, and they all come together for this reunion, and they're uncovering the secrets and the lies and all of the drama that went on. We flash back and forth, present day to when they were in school, and it is just so fun. It is so dramatic. The twists aren't the most surprising, but I just love these characters so much because they're unlikable, okay? I know you're thinking, Hailey, you love unlikable characters. That is an oxymoron. I feel like that's a theme with a lot of the books on this list. A lot of the characters are really flawed and fucked up, and I like that so much better than reading a likable character because they feel human. That's all I'm gonna say about that. All right, you guys knew that this one was gonna be on this list. Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. This one is so important. Even if you're not a thriller reader, I really highly suggest that you read this book because there's very little feminist representation in the thriller genre. Actually, I really don't like how many women are portrayed in thrillers, but in here, it's everything. And you know exactly what's going on the whole story. There's not really any big twist the majority of the story, but what is going on is so disturbing. The villain in this story is one of the most terrifying characters I have ever read about in my life. It's about a woman who is trapped in this abusive relationship that looks completely perfect and idyllic from the outside, and how she tries to get out of this relationship. Trigger warnings for this one as well. There's the death of a dog that is very disturbing, and harm to vulnerable populations, including a girl with Down syndrome. So just be aware of that going in. Another newer fave is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. This is everything I could ever want in a thriller, serial killer POV, feminist lens, and gay shit goes down. We're following two perspectives. One is a murderous professor at this school who takes out the men who are just shitty and sexually assault the women on campus, and the women never get their revenge. And we're also following the perspective of a female student and trying to figure out how they will cross paths. I know this one is getting a lot of hype right now. Just let me tell you, it lives up 100%. Next up, let's talk about Verity by Colleen Hoover. This one is another one like Jar of Hearts that gave me fucking whiplash. The amount of twists in the last 2 chapters of this book alone left me shaken and stirred. All of the atmosphere in this book is so creepy too. I recommended it to one of my best friends and she was like, I'm home alone right now in this big house and I cannot read this. It is so scary. And coming from Colleen Hoover, who's such a classic romance queen, coming out with this banger of a thriller, I just feel like it's so impressive. There's also great romance elements in here as well, and a lot of smut. So if you don't like that, maybe be aware of that. But I absolutely loved the juxtaposition of this horrifying thriller and the salacious romance that was going on as well. So read it. Next up, we have a teeny tiny itsy bitsy baby of a book, and that is The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. It's crazy that 60 pages made it on this list of my top 25 and beat out full-length books, but this one's just so good. It's about a woman she's down on her luck out here. She lives her life giving fortunes, but she's not actually like a mystic magic woman. She just pretends to know what the hell she's talking about, and she makes her real money in the back room of the psychic shop giving hand jobs, which is like, go off, queen. I love that for you. But the problem is she's getting carpal tunnel. So she's really gonna have to focus on getting wealthier clients for her little psychic business. And she meets a particular woman who is definitely willing to pay her, but has a lot of crazy shit going on. This book is just chaos from the word go. I absolutely loved it. 5 stars, not even a question. And it's so hard to pack such a punch in such a little book. And Gillian Flynn does it. When are you coming out with another book, queen? I would like to know. Getting into the last few books here, we have The Butcher by Jennifer Hillier, another one of my queens, my favorite authors of all time. Y'all know this. This follows a man who moves into his grandfather's house. He inherits it, and he ends up finding something that's a little bit disturbing. His grandfather was the chief of police that caught this very notorious serial killer, the Butcher, but he ends up finding evidence in his house that maybe the person his grandfather caught was not the real killer, and the killer is still out there. This is such a classic, like, slasher. It feels like a movie, so fast-paced, so underhyped, criminally underhyped. So please pick up this book. Next up, I would recommend Take It Back by Kia Abdullah. This one is a British legal thriller about a woman who used to be a criminal defense attorney, but it gets too much for her, so she becomes a victim's advocate for survivors of sexual assault. And one day, this girl comes into her office claiming that she was gang raped by a group of Muslim boys. She is a Muslim woman herself, so it's really hard for her to go against her community and support this white girl that's coming in and accusing members of her community. Another layer to this story is that this white girl is deformed. She has a facial deformity. And a lot of people, when the case gets some traction, start to say, you know, why would anybody want to rape her? She's ugly, she's deformed, all of these horrible things. So it has a lot of commentary on rape culture and the way that we think about survivors and look at the survivors of sexual assault. This is another thriller that has a real message. It is really important to lift up these thrillers that are important and have a message. And obviously, salacious, dramatic thrillers are so fun, but when a thriller really says something, that's when it leaves a lasting impact on me, and this book definitely did. But again, you can probably tell there are a lot of trigger warnings for this one as well. And finally, the last book on my top 25 thrillers of all time list is Wonderland by Jennifer Hillier. I absolutely freaking love this book. Jennifer Hillier is just the master of a good, gory, graphic thriller that is really gripping and fast-paced, mixed with these little fun romance elements that keep you flipping pages and drive the drama of the story and help you really get to know different sides of the characters that you're following. This one is about a town whose basically entire livelihood rests on the thriving of this amusement park called Wonderland. But the catch is these wonder workers that work in the park are going missing. And usually the sheriff is just like, I'm gonna look the other way because Wonderland supports our entire town. But when a new boss-ass female deputy moves to town, she's like, absolutely not. We are not ignoring this. These murders are happening and I'm gonna solve them. And that she does. So with that, that was a lot of books, I know. But thank you so much for watching and listening to me talk about my top 25 favorite thrillers. I hope I could recommend some that you haven't heard of yet, even if you're a seasoned thriller reader like me. And let me know which ones you plan on picking up down below in the comments. Again, thank you guys for watching. If you liked it, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye!